بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, in today's talk regarding the life of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, we will have our talk number 16, part 16 of the series. And in today's talk, we'll continue where we left off last week. We talked about some of the remaining, actually we were briefly talking about the judiciary during the time of Uthman bin Affan, but the section that we wanted to cover last week, we completed last week about the judiciary in his time of the Khilafah of Uthman bin Affan. And today, inshallah, today's talk will be the last talk until we will resume after the month of Ramadan. And today we'll talk about some of his fiqh opinions and adoptions in regards to the acts of worship and acts of mu'amalat. So ibadat and mu'amalat. Ibadat means things which are related to directly relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and mu'amalat means the transactions between the people. So we will talk about these two briefly, and then inshallah after we come back from Ramadan, we will talk about the conquests during the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, meaning how the Islam is spread to the other parts of the world in his time, in the era of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. Now, talking about before we talk about his fiqh opinions and adoptions in the field of ibadat and mu'amalat, as I said, in the acts of worship and the transactions between the people, just to remind ourselves about where we left off last week. Last week we talked about judiciary, in which we talked about his some of the judgments that were passed by him or by the judges in his time and era, were regards to the executions of some of the thieves who ended up killing a person, and the ones who were involved, they were all executed because of the act they did. And also we talked about a man who killed a merchant for his money, and then injuries caused in the fight between two people, how to deal with these kind of situations. And in the judiciary, when we talk about justice provided by Uthman, was not only related to only humans, but rather in the case of even in the animals. The animals were harmed in his time. And that's in general is from Islam. It's not like Uthman was coming up with something new. Rather, it is what Islam teaches us about. Even if the animals are harmed, and whoever the animal belonged to, if it was killed, then the person had to pay the diya or the consequences of the loss that he has caused to the owner of the animals as well. And also about if there are any kind of aggressor, the aggressors were dealt accordingly as well. And we talked about the apostasy, which is in his time. Actually, what happened was some of those people who were who believed in Musaylimah Kadhab, or actually they were trying to revive that idea of Musaylimah Kadhab being the prophet, even though it was dealt in the time of, it was started in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but dealt in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. But there were some people, they were trying to revive some of the things that Musaylimah was started. And Abu Bakr, Uthman, as it is in Islam, when the cases like this are there about apostasy, first you have to offer Islam to them so they can understand what really Islam is. It could be that they do not have the correct understanding of it, or whatsoever the reasons are. So it's better to present Islam. So Uthman's instructions were offer them Islam, explain them Islam. If they return back to Tawbah, they are like our brothers, and they're back to Islam, but as back to normal life, and they'll be forgiven. But the ones who insist on their ridda, their apostasy, then they were punished as Islam obliges the ruler to do in that case. Now, so that was about when it comes to apostasy. And then the had of drinking was applied in his time as well. As we talked about that was from the time of Rasulullah, then Abu Bakr and Umar, and then in the time of Uthman as well. And Uthman did not even leave his own relative like Walid bin Uqba. That was his half brother, meaning from the mother's side, he was the brother of Uthman, and he did not allow, he did not even let him go just because he was his half brother, and even he was the governor of one of the provinces in the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. And this is one of the things that you find throughout the history of Khulafa Rashidin, and even later in Khulafa as well. Of course, you will see, you can always find mistakes done by the Khulafa later on. But when we talk about Khulafa Rashidin, in that case, or in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they did not let a person go just because he was related to them or they were close to them. He was one of the kins or kith of the person. And then we talked about issues like what was the judgment of Uthman regarding a person who is a minor. A minor meaning the one who has not reached the puberty of balugha. In that case, you do not apply the punishment because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised the pen from the person who has not reached the puberty. As the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised his qalam, his pen, from three people. One is the majnoon, who is not in his senses basically. Second person is the one who is sleeping or not in his senses, in the sense of is unconscious until he wakes up, until he gets back in consciousness. And the third person is the one who is who's a sabi. Sabi means the one who has not reached the puberty until he reaches the puberty, that he is not accountable. Hence, Uthman was doing the very same thing, that he made sure that the minors, if they have committed a sin, they were not apprehended, they were not punished for that kind of stealing or anything like that. Now, talking about the act of ibadat in the time of Uthman, one thing to remember when we talk about ibadat in general, when it's about the individual ibadah, in that case, of course, that's a relationship between Allah and a person. In that case, in general, Khulafa do not adopt something and enforce over the people. But the things which, when we talk about the things which are done in a communal manner, we find that here and there that there are some adoptions were done, and it was not necessarily applied in the sense of that it's a law of the land or something. Rather, it was the adoption of Uthman bin Affan. And one of them was about Uthman's understanding, or actually it's not understanding, he prayed 4 rak'ah at Mina and Arafah. And we know that in Mina and Arafah, you do the qasr. Qasr means you shorten the prayer. But Uthman was of the opinion, he used to do the very same thing, as a matter of fact. In the time of Rasulullah, that was done, then in the time of Abu Bakr and Umar, and in the beginning of Uthman as well. But then he found out about the people who were coming from Yemen. They were saying, they came back from the previous year and they said, well, we're going to shorten the prayer in Yemen as well when we go back, because we see the ruler does that way, ruler as Uthman. So now Uthman prayed 4 rak'ah. Now, when it was Abdurrahman bin Auf, radiallahu anh, when he found out about this, who was leading 2 rak'ah? When he was leading the salah among the people over there, he was praying as 2 rak'ah, as a shortened prayer. As we know, when we are traveling, in the case of the traveling, that the Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha, instead of 4, they become 2, and Fajr and Maghrib, they stay as is, because from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Abdurrahman bin Auf came to Uthman and asked him, why did you do that? So his response was, look, this is what the Yemen people from Yemen are doing, or they're trying to do, to show them that I pray 4 because, and he said, I am a resident because I have married in Mecca and I have some property in Taif. Hence, I am a resident here. So Abdurrahman bin Auf said, well, it's not exactly true, because your wife is with you in Medina. And when it comes to your property, that is still far away from Mecca. So Uthman insisted on, because he wanted not to have this wrong impression on the people who were coming from Yemen, and he continued. And then some of the Sahaba followed him. But the point here is, Abdurrahman bin Auf was showing that the Sunnah of Rasulullah was that. Hence, he was coming and talking to Uthman to show him out that, look, this is, you don't have to do this because of the Yemenis, but he was just, and another aspect of it is scholars, they differ. Even among the Sahaba, there was a difference of opinion regarding whether shortening the prayer is an obligation, or it's a recommendation, or it's a rukhsa, or the permission. And some of them of the opinion was that it is an obligation, as a matter of fact. But the others, and that include fuqaha like Imam Shafi'i even, they considered that this is not an obligation to shorten the prayer. Okay, but others, other scholars, and including some of the Sahaba, they have the opinion that it is a must for you to shorten the prayer. Hence, from Uthman's opinion, you can see that when he's done the shorten the prayer, and he also prayed 4 rak'ah as well. So it is not like, again, it's a different opinion issue from that perspective. Now, in the time of Uthman also, there's another new thing that happened that was not in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was for the Salatul Jum'ah, the second adhan was started. Now, that seemed like as if he has started something new. But in reality, it's not, for a couple of reasons. One, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin." Okay, for you, it is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that you follow my sunnah, being sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the sunnah of Khulafa Rashidin, which is talking about Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and follow their understanding as well. Now, the question comes in is, well, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did one, and why was he doing 2 adhans? Now, as we see, as a matter of fact, nowadays, and for a very long period of time, we can see that this 2 adhan have become like a very well-established kind of a way of doing the Salatul Jum'ah. And it started in the time of Uthman. Now, why did he do that? The point was, in the time of Uthman, the Medina started expanding quite fast. As we know, that in the time of Umar radiallahu anh, Islam spread to many different regions that included, even went up to Central Asia, parts of Persia, Romans, Egypt, and part of Africa. It was all open in the time of Umar al-Khattab. And we will see in the time of Uthman also, this conquest did not stop, it continued on. So this was expanding a lot. Now, the first adhan that was made, and there's the differences of what time the first adhan should be made. That's not, we don't want to make this as a fiqh talk here, but the main point to mention is it happened at Uthman. But the first adhan, the point was to show, okay, the time, start gathering for Salatul Jum'ah. And the second one was when the Imam gets to the minbar, and the second adhan was called at that time, and the khutbah and the salah was happening. Now, so is this something new or no? What has been said is, like in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there used to be, as a matter of fact, 2 adhans for Salatul Fajr also. And one was just to start waking up the people, and they start getting ready for Fajr, and if they can do the tahajjud as well, if they want. And the other one was really for the Salatul Fajr. This is some of the fuqaha, they say, okay, this is where this qiyas is coming for. It is more for gathering the people, not necessarily it is for specifically for Salatul Jum'ah. It's more for the Salatul Jum'ah, you're gathering people before the act of Salatul Jum'ah, which is the khutbah and salah starts, which is the second khutbah is given for that. So that was something that happened in the time of Uthman bin Affan. Second thing, another thing that happened in the time of Uthman, and there are some examples talk about happened in the time of Umar as well, and that goes along with the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is, in case a person is leading the salah, and if he is making a mistake or something, or he found out that he made a mistake in the salah, and the salah is over, and everybody goes back. Now, when I'm talking about mistake like that, let's say the imam did not have wudu. Now, in this case, what's going to happen? And that's what happened with Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. Once he was leading in the morning, he led the salah, and then later on he saw the marks of semen on his clothes. Now, then he realized, and then he starts saying that I am really getting old, that I'm forgetting things now. So Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, he repeated his prayer, but he did not command the people to repeat theirs. Okay, because their prayer is valid in that case. So this is one of the opinions of Uthman bin Affan. Now, in the ibadat, another opinion of Uthman bin Affan, which was famous, was Uthman was of the opinion that the sujood for the tilawah are obligation, that it's a must for you when you are reciting the Quran, or the Quran is recited to you and you're sitting and listening. This is a very important aspect of this sujood tilawah, that it is recited for you and you're sitting and listening. Then in that case, you must be doing this. Of course, there's ikhtilaf about this itself, that these are obligatory or the Sunnah act when you hear that. But that's for, and Uthman said very clearly about this, that the procession is only required of the one who is listening to it, and the one who's of course reciting to it, that's for them, not for the ones who is passing by, for example, and he hears it, but he doesn't know, it could be doesn't know what he's hearing, and that's not his intent to listen to it. In that case, it is not an obligation, and that's what Uthman's saying was about. Uthman, when he was he grew older, so he became weaker. And what we see in Uthman's time, when he was giving the khutbs in his time, he would even sit down in part of the khutbah because he could not stand that long. As we know, the Uthman bin Affan, radiallahu anh, he was about a couple of years younger than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he outlived Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by about 20 years or so. Okay, so he was in his 80s when he passed away, when he was a Khalifa. Because after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who passed away at the age of around 63, and there was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, who ruled for about 2 years and few months, and then Umar for about 10 years, and then Uthman era was actually, Uthman's era was about 12 plus years of Uthman. So that makes it about close to 20 years older than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he passed away. Hence, when he was giving the khutbs, when in his time, when he was a Khalifa, he was quite old, getting older also. So hence, when he was getting old, but then what he would do is, so he used to deliver the khutbah standing and then sit. And Muawiyah became Khalifa, he would deliver the first khutbah sitting and second while standing. So these are the ones who were older. He became older. And now, one of the key things that you will see about this is all these khulafa, they were leading Salat al-Jum'ah, they were leading the khutbs, they were delivering the speeches about the deen and all those things. So it's not like there's a separation of so-called masjid and a state, and the person who are ruling have no clue what deen talks about. No, rather they are the one who are there to implement the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they are scholars, great. If they're not scholars, they should be surrounded by scholars. They should have people around them who can give them advice. But at the same time, what we see here is a norm that we see is they are the one who are leading their prayers. They're leading the Friday prayers and so on and so forth. And as a matter of fact, there are different opinions regarding the subject. Like, for example, when Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh was stabbed, and until Uthman was elected as a Khalifa, Suhaib al-Rumi radiallahu anh, the one who was during that time when they were choosing who will be the next Khalifa, he was leading the Salah, and the moment Uthman was given the bay'ah, Uthman started leading the Salah. So this is one of the ways of showing who is the Imam Amirul Mu'mineen of the Muslimin, the one who leads the Salah even for the people as well. Okay, now going back to, so this is some few of his rulings regarding ibadat. Now, inshallah, in the last 10-15 minutes, we'll talk few of his rulings regarding the transactions between the people. One of them was about, there's a thing in Islam called rida, or by breastfeeding. If a woman has breastfed somebody who's not a child of hers at the age when he is 2 or under, and there's a ikhtilaf about how much that they can make the child, boy or girl, as if you want to translate in English, a lot of time they call them as foster children, but this is not really foster, because English In English, foster children have a different connotation. In Islam, they are the brothers and sisters of the children of that woman by breastfeeding. So now, when Uthman's time, if he found out that by mistake, for example, a man or a woman, they got married, and then they found out that they were breastfed by a woman, then he separated them. As one of the incident that talks about a black woman who breastfed two of the people, and Uthman bin Affan, he separated the man and the woman from each other. Okay, and when it comes to khula is a way of and when a husband and wife, the man and woman are married, and then woman wants to be separated from the husband. That act is called khula, other than the talaq. And in this case, she can go to the qadi, or go to the head of the state or khalifa, and ask for this separation. And this separation, in general, it goes by, you have to, the woman has to give back that, for example, if there was a dowry or the mahar was taken, then she returns the mahar back to the husband for this khula. Now, there's an incident that was mentioned by Rubai binti Muwa'id, that there was an argument between her and her paternal cousin who she was married to. And she said, you can take everything and give me the khula. Let me escape. And he said he agreed with this. And he literally took everything from her. He even took the mattress from her. And she went to Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh about this, that he took everything from me, I have nothing now. So Uthman bin Affan said, he said, your condition gave him the authority to take everything, even your headband, because you are the one who agreed with this condition or this thing that you can take everything and let me go. And hence the husband says that's what he wants, and he took everything from her. And one of the reports talk about he took everything except he left the headband for his wife. So I mean, you see different kind of things happen, especially when it's between husband and wife. Okay, now in the time of Uthman bin Affan, there was an incident happened that one of the guys came to Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he said he wants to talk to him. And Uthman was in a hurry. So he said, I'm in a hurry. If you really have to ask me the question, okay, you get on my ride behind me and we can talk while I'm riding. And subhanAllah, this is the way we find our exemplary rulers over us, that even when he is in a hurry and if somebody is in need, that he is trying to fulfill the need. And he started talking and he said, what happened with him is actually happened to his neighbor, that his neighbor got angry with his wife and he divorced her. And now he regrets that he divorced his wife. He said, I want to do a favor to him. I want to marry her and consummate the marriage, and then I would divorce the woman, which is called the halala, right? Of course, this is not a halala that you marry with this intention that you are going to divorce. And Uthman, of course, told him that do not marry her unless you are serious for the marriage. You cannot marry like this, that you marry and with this intent that you are going to divorce. Unfortunately, sometimes people abuse this ruling about Islam, which is actually this idea of halala makes the husband and wife serious about, even they are trying to divorce, they should understand how serious of an issue that is, that they cannot be halal on them unless they go through this process. And that process is what? A wife has to marry somebody, I'm talking about after three divorces, then she has to marry somebody, and then either the husband dies or he really gives the divorce, not because of he started the marriage with this, that I will divorce and then this way he will become the halal on the other husband, because that itself is a invalid kind of a marriage to start with. Okay, so Uthman make sure that it should be serious when you are doing that kind of acts. Other thing happened in the time of Uthman bin Affan, and a case was brought in front of him about a drunkard person, and his view was this: if a drunkard person gives the divorce, then the divorce is not valid, because a drunkard person is not aware of what he is saying. Okay, that's a separate issue of a person is drunkard, he's drinking, has a drinking issues, he will be punished for the drinking aspect of it. But when you talk about issue of divorce that he's saying, his opinion was that that divorce would not happen because a person has no clue what he is doing. Okay. Inshallah, we'll go for 5 more minutes and then we'll stop. Other thing is about in the time of Uthman bin Affan, and there's actually a ruling in Islam about which is called hijr. Hijr is when you are putting up, you're preventing somebody to have access to his own wealth. Okay, so the way you do it is if there's a person who's not even though he's a mature person, but he does not know the value of the money, for example, or he wastes the money in a manner in a manner that should not be wasted. When he goes to buy and sell, he doesn't know the values of the things that he can buy and sell, hence it can be prevented, and you can take him to the judge or take him to the qadi or Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he can prevent that. So something like this happened to Abdullah bin Ja'far radiyallahu anhu. So Ja'far was of course he was the brother of Ja'far was the brother of Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu, and Abdullah bin Ja'far was a nephew. Now Ja'far was married to Asma bint Umais, and his sister was married to Zubayr bin Awam radiyallahu anhu, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was of course sorry, not Zubayr, it was Mus'ab bin Umair. Anyway, Zubayr was a cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, like Ali was the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Ali and Zubayr were cousins to each other as well. Now, when it comes to what happened was Ja'far bin Abi Talib, Abdullah bin Ja'far, not Ja'far, Abdullah bin Ja'far, the son of Ja'far, he bought a land and he paid 60,000 dinars. When Ali radiallahu anh found out, and he knew the land did not worth that much, so he wanted to go to Uthman and stop this the way Ja'far was spending the money, because he did not know the value of the land. So he said this is not worth that much, this is foolish transaction, hence the foolish transaction should be prevented. So he wanted to go to Uthman. Abdullah bin Ja'far went to Zubayr bin Awam radiallahu anhu. He told him that Ali wants to do this. So Zubayr said, okay, then I become your partner. If I am the partner, because Zubayr bin Awam radiallahu anhu was very sharp in business. He was a sharp businessman in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even if you remember the story of the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Rasulullah was migrating from Mecca to Medina, on the way Zubayr was coming back from Sham with some of the belongings, and he gave a gift to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Okay, so Zubayr was actually married to Asma bint Abi Bakr, as by mistake I said Asma bint Umais. Now, moving forward, so when that happened, Ali reached to Uthman, and Uthman said, if he has a partner like Zubayr, I cannot prevent this transaction anymore, because he is sharp in business, and Zubayr bin Awam radiallahu anh was able to take the side of Abdullah bin Ja'far, basically. This is what happened, and Uthman could not make a decision in the favor of Ali in this case. Okay, in the time of Uthman, like many other things, he also, like Rasulullah sometime, Abu Bakr and Umar, he continued to be the one who made sure that there is no hoarding be happening in the marketplace. Hoarding is something which is not allowed in Islam, and hence he prevented from this as well. There is other things that happened in the time of Uthman bin Affan, including the ruling regarding the camel. If there is a strayed camel, what to be done? Now, about that, there is there are hadith that talk about the subject, about how to deal with a strayed camel. But the thing is, in the time of Uthman, he made the judgment that the camel, if there is found, then it should be sold, and the money should be kept in the Baytul Mal. And if the owner comes, then you can give the money to the owner. But the thing is, the ruling is different from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and now we have to understand what exactly was happening there. So the hadith was saying about when we found something on the ground, which is called the luqta, then you are supposed to propagate whatever you have found for a year. If you don't find the owner, then you can take the benefit of it. That's yours now. Okay. Now, when it comes to the hadith says, what about, okay, that's fine. What about the ghanam? What about the sheep or a goat or something that you find? So for that, Rasulullah said, it is either for you or your brother or for the wolf. So he said, what about, so you can take the benefit from it, and there are hadith give more detail about it. Then somebody said, what about a lost camel? He said, what have you to do with it? It has its water supply and its feet, and it can come to the water and eat from the trees until its master finds it. So Rasulullah said, let the camel go. Now, the point is, some of the scholars, they try to say, well, so that means that there's a maslahah, the maslahah had been involved here for the ummah, hence the hadith is not used here. That's incorrect, because maslahah, even the one who follows the maslahah ruling benefits, which is not correct to begin with in this kind of cases, because if there's a hadith is there, you cannot override the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by maslahah. So what was it going on? One of the things that understanding is that ruling was for the people who find it. The people who find it. When it comes to the ruler, he is the caretaker. So he's the caretaker. He's the one who's saying, if you find it, then it's going to be put into the Baytul Mal. And Baytul Mal, because now the land is, again, it was increasing quite a bit in the time of Uthman as well. And Uthman bin Affan, radiallahu anh, by the way, was famous for his understanding regarding the knowledge about Hajj. Him and Abdullah bin Umar were the two people who had most knowledge about the Hajj. Hence, you find many rulings in his time regarding the Hajj as well, which Uthman bin Affan, specifically, he is the one who made some adoptions and his opinions. Like, for example, he prohibited entering ihram before reaching any kind of a miqat, of course, which is not until now we know that. And women who are in the iddah, he prohibited them, made sure that they cannot make the Hajj and the Umrah in their iddah. Okay, in their iddah. And if they came, then from Juhfa and Dhul Hulayfa, he would return them back. Uthman's time, his understanding was that he prevented the people to do the Hajj Tamattu and Qiran. And he did he was in the favor of should be done the Ifrad one, which is just the Hajj, there's no Umrah in there. But of course, Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh, just to show to the people that he can, does not mean that we cannot do that. This is his opinion about this. So he intentionally made the intention about he's doing both. So to show the people that we cannot leave the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so that was Uthman bin Affan's his understanding, and he was saying that's his understanding about that this is better. Like some of the scholars have this understanding as well. Okay, and last but not least, and inshallah we'll wrap it up because of the time issue. Uthman's time, he also made sure that if a woman is divorced, in that case, and she is going through her iddah, then, and if the husband dies, or by the way, it could be other way around also. If the iddah is going on and the wife dies, then the spouses will inherit from them. The spouses will inherit from them. Now, about this, if especially if a divorce is done, that's Uthman's understanding mentioned that if the husband does divorce the wife because he's very sick and he wants to prevent his wife to inherit from him, in that case, he will still inherit. And according to one of the understanding, even if he dies after the iddah is passed, even then he will inherit because he was on the deathbed. Okay, so these are just few of his understandings regarding the ibadat or the acts of worship and transactions, the muamalat Inshallah, if there's any questions or comments about this specific subject, I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, inshallah, we will be resuming this series of talk after the month of Ramadan, after Eid, inshallah. That we will be